All right. Hi, Casey and everybody. This is Barry Keating. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be doing Starmites. It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic production. And Casey has asked me to give you all a little background on how I came about to write it. It was my very first show that I ever wrote. I thought I was going to be a director and an actor, and that's what I came to New York to do. And I worked with a very close friend of mine, who was a brilliant composer, very famous, his name is Jim Steinman, and he wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart and a lot of other stuff. But I was going to direct his shows and be in them. And instead, he became hugely famous with the Meatloaf album. And I said, okay, now that you're famous, let's do a show together. It's going to be a sci-fi show. And he said, I can't do it. I'm I'm too busy doing this rock and roll stuff, and it's too hard to do a show. So I said, well, what should I do? He said, why don't you write it yourself? I said, oh, thanks a lot. I'm supposed to sit down and write music, write a whole score. I've never written anything in my life. And he said, well, if I can write, you can. You have as much training as I. So out of anger and fury and jealousy of my friend Jim, I started writing this show that I had been dreaming up. And I didn't have a piano in my apartment that time. So I just went to various people's pianos and started. The first song I wrote was Starmites. The second song I wrote was Afraid of the Dark. And then I got an apartment and I put a piano in it. I didn't have any other furniture except the piano at first. And I spent the summer writing it. And my idea was that nobody had done a sci-fi musical yet successfully. And I wanted to do comic books. It was my favorite thing when I was growing up. And I thought if it's going to be about a superhero, if it's going to be interesting, it should be about a female superhero. I didn't write it to, I didn't dream up my original idea to think anything about feminism or women being superheroes. But of course, once I started, that's what it became about. I put everything in it that I liked. I liked like the Bowery Boys and the Deadhead Kids. So I made the Starmites so that there'd be modern versions of that. And I loved Gilbert and Sullivan. So I threw in a bit of Gilbert and Sullivan. Anyway, I threw everything in, and it became a very complicated plot, which I made up. And I put it on. I put it on off Broadway at a place called the Arc Theater. Got a rave review in the New York Times, a money review. First there was Star Wars, then there was Star Trek. Now there's Starmites, surely the mightiest of the three epics. Mightiest spelled M-I-T-E. So I thought, well, I'm here. Long story short, cut to like 7 years later of trying to get the show on, even with that review. We finally did it on Broadway. It was nominated for 6 Tony Awards. And it didn't have a long run, but it's become a huge cult. They didn't know what to do with it on Broadway. The Tony Committee loved it. The audiences loved it. The New York Times loved it again. The other critics were, well, what is that show about doing on Broadway? This was like 1988. What is it? A show about a girl who's a superhero. So anyway, it's become a huge cult classic all over the place. It's been done by loads of high schools and colleges, especially. And it's been done around the world. It's been done in Japan. And it's been done in France, in England, and in Panama in Spanish. So the plot is Eleanor Fairchild is a 16-year-old girl, and she's a comic book fanatic, but she's decided to get rid of all her comic books because it's time for her to grow up. But instead, she's sucked into her comic book world by the arch villain of that universe, which is called Inner Space, by a villain named Shock Gra. And she is rescued by the space punk, who's the captain of the Starmites, who are a troop of young men in this planet, and their duty is to save the galaxy. But their main focus is to find a person called Milady, who's going to save the universe. And it turns out that Eleanor is Milady, at least they believe so. And she has to learn throughout the show. They believe in her, but she actually doesn't. And they're searching on a quest for a magical musical instrument called the Cruelty. And I'll leave it there because the plot gets very complicated. I'll give a little trouble. Okay, here I am again. And I wanted to show you some pictures of various productions. The very first production was very different than the Starmites that went to Broadway. Let me see. I'm clicking on it. Yeah, let me get out of the way a bit. This is Diva and the Banshees. Hi, Diva. And she's the queen of inner space and seems to be evil, but it turns out she's a good person after all. And this is the Starmites and the Banshees, threatened by the Banshees, who seem to be bad, and but they turn out to be just fine. And this is, here we go. This is this is Eleanor. No, this is actually Eleanor's alter ego, who's called Bizarbra, and her mother is Diva, Queen of the Banshees. This is from the beginning one. That's why they're all in black and white. Then some other productions. This is like a high school production. They've been done all over the place. It's really fun. You can do anything you want with the Starmites, and I can't wait to see what Casey and your troupe comes up with. This was the original Space Punk, nominated for Tony, Brian Lane Green. This was on Broadway. And this was a production that I directed years later, Starmites 2001. That was really fun. And that's when we made the Starmites more of a boy group. And this is, I'm right in the way of everything. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, this is just a publicity thing. This is, oh, here's Brian again. Yeah, here's these guys. Sorry. Oh, is that everybody, I guess? Oh, yeah, and here's Eleanor, our heroine. And she does indeed become a superhero, but she becomes a woman superhero, which is quite different than a male superhero cliche. It's very different to be a woman superhero. Your powers are super amazing, but they're not fighting. It's not about punching people out. And last but not least, this is a cute little picture of this was done by a middle school. Whoops. I can't get out of the way. There, it's so cute. Okay. That's my slideshow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate
it. Use what you will. That was fun. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, that'll be great. That's much more exciting than me just yammering about the show. You're hearing the gala participants coming in behind me.
That's great. So have a great show. Have a great time.
Yeah, well, we're gonna put up our numbers and stuff on YouTube, so I'll send you a link when it goes up.
Okay, great.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Good. All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.